But I before we finish up this episode, I wanted to say a quick word about Grant Wahl, who passed away in Qatar in what sound like just horrendous circumstances, suffered a heart attack at the stadium. I can't imagine how traumatic that was as well for all the journalists who were there and close to him in the press box when that happened. I've said a few words about Grant on the Continent podcast the other day, but I sort of feel like with a little bit of space, I just wanted to say with a little bit more clarity what a sort of brilliant man I think he was, and how much he gave to football and to soccer, as he would have called it. I think you come across certain people in your life and in your career who really are sort of all in, who are wholehearted in their sort of commitment to doing the things they think are the right things to do, and that are the things that are going to uplift people and their community. And Grant loved football. He lived for it. And I think the thing that's really blown me away is I got to know him when I went to America and worked there for a couple of years. And he was one of the people who was immediately getting in touch, offering his support, offering to be helpful, trying to be of service to you in whichever way you could. And the overwhelming volume of people who've said the same things in the last few days that I've been reading tributes to him and listening to tributes to him from other people. He just was someone who was constantly trying to speak for and uplift others. And I think even to the end in Qatar, what he was doing in his way, trying to represent and be a voice for LGBTQ plus people who weren't able to feel safe to travel there, was so indicative of who he was as a person, speaking up for people when he didn't have to. Grant had a big platform, had a big following, could have just trucked along quietly and looked after himself. And he was never that person. He was always looking out for other people. And he's such a loss. He's such a loss to football journalism and to soccer in America. And it's heartbreaking that he won't be able to be there when the World Cup goes back to North America in 4 years' time. So all my love to Grant's family and support to them right now, because they're the ones who will be struggling with this in the most sort of painful and immediate way. But I just want to say again what a wonderful man he is, and how much I think that we're all going to miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really hard to work in this industry and not to have come across Grant Wahl, because he's somebody who is always up front and center offering his support to everyone, because his mission has always been to grow the sport, to make it a better sport, and in that way to contribute to, in many ways, football is a microcosm of life. And for him, it's like this is his part in trying to better everything around. And he always wanted to give a voice to people that he never felt had a voice, whether that was, trying to progress women's game, or trying to progress female journalists, or speaking for the LGBT community, or migrant workers, or like whatever it is. Grant always tried to use his platform to get and to resolve situations. For me, on a personal note, I guess when I started doing this job, I felt kind of a little bit lost, and I was in the middle of Warsaw in Poland for Euro 2012. That was the first time I had traveled to cover a tournament. And lucky for me, I had Gab Marcotti and I had Raphael Honigstein staying in the same hotel, and we went for dinner together, and they brought Grant, and Grant just spent so much of his night talking to me in sort of a table where I felt so inferior to these people that had been doing it for so long. And I had just started out, and I didn't have the knowledge that they had, or the experience, or the contacts, or anything like that. And he was someone who's like, look, whatever you need, just buzz me. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. Here's whatever you want. And spent all night, like, telling me what I can do to improve, or what it is that I can, if I had any questions. And when I wanted to go to dinner next, or it was just all together, it was just, you felt so much part of your family. And he had this journal, which he does for the World Cup and he did for the Euros at the time. And he wrote about meeting whoever he meets as well. And it's just this way of making all these new people in the sport feel comfortable, feel like they can come to him. And his mission was to grow the sport. And he did a tremendous job in doing that, especially in America. Like, he made soccer so valued, so important. And not only that, I mean, like, look what he did to just the career of LeBron James, you know, and he is just somebody who understands talent. He's great. He just empathizes so well with everything that people can go through. He's an emotional man, but in the greatest sense, in the fact that you see humanity before anything. And yeah, it was a shock. I mean, he spoke about it in his podcast that he wasn't feeling very well. Obviously, like, you just think to yourself, life is so short and you never know when your time's up. And it's a shame for football as a sport to lose that. And you've seen the outpouring of emotion from everyone across the globe with news of his passing, but none more so than his wife, obviously, and his family. So our thoughts and prayers are with them. What a great man. And yeah, it's a great loss. And I'm sure we all feel it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love as well as anyone who's listening to this whose life was impacted by Grant. I hope you're all getting through it as well as you can.